Animal Crossing New Horizons etched itself into gaming history in 2020, but did you know that there is plenty of unused content in its game files? Today, I'll be running through the unused content of Animal Crossing New Horizons for the Nintendo Switch. There was a set of unused room IDs left over in the game files on ACNH's launch on March 20th, 2020. These include the artwork and art gallery rooms that were later included in the 1.2 update, but this is a bit odd because the art gallery consists of one room, not two, as these IDs suggest. Haniwa, the Japanese name for gyroids, and the cafe were both introduced in the 2.0 update. If you were to take the camera to the island overworld and move it around to see the inside of Dodo Airlines, a low poly mesh for a desk is loaded inside. This was likely left over from very early in the game's development because this desk is on the north side of the building, while the inside and finished version of Dodo Airlines suggests that the desk is on the east side of the building. Left over in the game files are a series of cut menus that didn't make the final version of the game. This is likely just a template that some form of shopkeeper would use to distribute items, but it is ultimately unused. This second screenshot is of a keyboard with a large input size to the 200 character limit. Although that seems large, it ultimately doesn't fit that much in there. I think this could have been used for writing letters, but that's just me. This last screenshot is super interesting. This menu is untranslated and asks the players to read in the school building. This is left over from Happy Home Paradise and would have been initiated by speaking to Lottie. There is a series of dummy textures left over in the game files for all the colored wrapping and the crafting recipe. Apparently, someone on the ACNH team slipped their name in the game files. I wonder how Gary got in there. There are a few stickers that are impossible to see in the back of KK's guitar. These are both passes with Brewster and Dr. Shrunk on each sticker. These are references to past locations where KK would perform, the Roost and Club LOL. Speaking of KK, his DJ KK icon was present in the game data in version 1.0.0 and updated to include headphones and a nicer hat in version 2.0. At the CEDEC 2020 conference in Japan, some images of ACNH in very early development were revealed. This first image is from very early in development, and there are an assortment of changes between it and the final version we saw in March 2020. We see Bob on the left side of our screens, but there's also another purple tail on the right side of our screen, and it's possible that this is another copy of Bob testing the NPCs at this point in development. There are two identical houses in front of the player, likely being villager houses in testing. The grass looks pretty realistic in this point of development, with blades seeming to grow out of them. In the early version, the resident services building can be seen in the background, and you can tell this is very early in development due to how it doesn't look very fleshed out. Behind the player, we can see their house, which looks very similar to the one we see in the release version of the game. This second screenshot shows a lot more than the first. The time and date in the bottom left corner actually has a background and is reminiscent of the clock in Dobuto no Mori E+, while the clock in the final version of the game is in plain white text. In the bottom right corner, we can also see an early version of the map. The map has curved edges and a blue border, while the final has straight 90-degree angles with a white border. There seems to be a lot of beach territory on this map, while the final version seems to have far less, being more rectangular. There's also a bit of beach shape bleeding out on the right, and the sea is seen in the bottom left corner of the minimap. This patch of weeds is supposed to show how difficult it was to differentiate it from grass in early versions of the game. The white fencing in the background was not available in March 2020, but was in the 2.0 update in September 2021, long after ACNH's insane popularity fell off. I did not need to write that in the script. We can also see early versions of the cliffs on the left and right sides of our screens, and I'm pretty glad that they were changed because they weren't exactly the prettiest at this point in development. We can also see some of the concept art of some of the villagers that would debut in New Horizons. Sherb resembles his final version pretty well as he retains all the features in here, except for his ears that would change to be yellow and his shirt that was changed to have a frosty pattern on it. Judy's skin has a solid blue pattern on it instead of the blue and pink gradient we see in game. Her ears were changed from hearts to be solid white instead, likely to fit her gradient, and her maid dress was changed to be more like a dress shirt maybe? I'm not exactly sure what that would be. Dom has a bit more fur on his face, stripes on his horns, and a tie-dye pattern on his shirt in the final game, instead of his formal wear dress shirt in his concept art. I can't lie, Audie looks essentially the exact same, as only her glasses are a little bit wider in the final version of the game. Sid, however, is pretty different. He has an orange peel on his shirt, a bit of a black gradient on the ends of his ears, a completely new fit with a yellow and black jacket, and his tail is blue instead of red, all in the final version. There are a variety of animations in ACNH that go unused, whether it's by the villagers, other NPCs, or just straight up unused. Donkey Bending by Jay with 2 E's and 5 A's on YouTube. Here they all are. Anger, begging, desperation, disbelief, happiness, notice, outrage, rubbing, intense, sunniness, sweating, talking. The salute used by Wilbur and Orville, laying down used by Gulliver, acknowledgement used by KK, nodding used by KK, questioning used by KK, and finally the Shrunk Funk Shuffle. What the hell is that name?